What's up, everybody? I'm going to do a breakdown of a friend of mine's role with his partner. So on the left is Greg Sirico. He's a brown belt under Marcelo, a very old friend of mine. We started training together really long time ago. And his partner, who he owns Odyssey BJJ with, Lenny, in the black Raj guard. Lenny is a black belt under Henzo. So it starts off with Lenny continually doing like a Kusotogari on Greg's left leg. And a lot of times, like Greg's legs are unfortunately, like, now he's in a better stance. Before, they were too close together, and sometimes Greg like steps one leg behind the other when he's shuffling. So this could be potentially be one of the reasons that Lenny is looking for that trip to take him down, or it just maybe could be one of his favorite moves to do too. Like here, Greg looks to be kind of like looking for maybe an Uchimata, maybe looking for some single attacks. But once in a while, as you can see, he starts to cross his feet, and sometimes his feet are a little bit too close together, which is an opportunity for Lenny, to go for that. So here, they're going to reset. Greg is looking for some ties. Lenny goes in for a single. Greg counters right away with a nice Kimura. If Greg had been able to bring this knee under Lenny's armpit, he could have set up an arm lock. Instead, he's going to look to come up, and Lenny is using his legs to create space. Lenny knows that if he comes up, that Greg can take his back, so Lenny is looking to take his head and spin it into this direction and use his legs to free his arm. And Greg is looking to keep his wrist pinned to his belly. Greg can start to come up and looking for kimuras from the top, or he can, try to still take Lenny's back by coming up and pulling Lenny in with that kimura grip to start to look for the back take. So Greg still keeps the kimura grip, and as you can see, Greg is walking in because he's still chasing the back. Lenny is holding onto Greg's head to make it a little bit annoying for Greg to do so, and Greg is going to let go of it momentarily, and now Greg is framing on his leg, and Greg does a great job about scooping. So this is a very interesting sequence that happened. So right over here, what Greg does is he takes his outside leg and he's going to scoop Lenny's leg to trap him into a half guard, because as of now, Lenny is past Greg's guard. So this is a really nice escape by Greg. And what Lenny is going to do is, as soon as that happens, Lenny is going to take the opportunity to take this leg, and he's going to backstep and bring his knee right behind Greg's knee to start to set up the saddle or different leg attacks. So let's watch. So right away, Lenny backsteps. So here, Greg, what he can do is he can start to take this leg out and re-pummel it to start to look and to chase Lenny's back and to defend against the backstep. But the reason it's going to be especially hard is because Lenny takes his knee and he covers it right on the inside of Greg's knee. So it's going to be, the timing has to be perfect on that one for Greg. So here, Greg is trying to make space. He's pushing into Lenny, and he's using this foot to bridge, and Greg is looking for like a sweep from this position. Now Greg is using his hook to try to hook Lenny's leg to sweep him over, so that Lenny falls over backwards. Greg actually does a good job, and he starts to come up, and then Lenny starts to wrestle. So from here, Lenny is looking to throw his body into this direction, and Greg's best option here is going to be to whizzer and to start fighting from this like dogfight position when both of them are on their knees. As you can see, Lenny already has his hand blocking Greg's knee over here. And since Greg is not on his ball of his foot, and since he's not firmly on his knee, his only post is his arm, so it's going to be quite difficult to remain on his knees. So Greg just goes to his guard. Now Greg is doing a good job about framing right over here. He should take this arm and make it look almost the same as his right arm, so that he has two strong frames. This one should be on right over here on the hip, and that way he can start to escape his hip and look to re-guard. Unfortunately, his legs are facing the opposite way, but he's looking to again turn into Lenny to get his guard back. Lenny goes onto a knee on belly. looks to mount on Greg. And here, Greg is actually in the same position that he was at earlier with the scoop that he did. So here, he should scoop this ankle firmly, make his knees kiss each other, stay completely on his left side, and bring this elbow right on the inside of the thigh so he can use his elbow to get this leg back in between his legs, and then look to re-guard to get into half guard. But what Lenny is doing is he knows that Greg wants to turn towards this side, so now he is shoulder pressuring to make sure that Greg starts to turn away from him, to make it extra difficult for him to do so. So here, as you can see, what Lenny is doing with his shoulder, he's driving Greg away so that he is looking away from the direction that his legs are pointing. But Greg still wants to make his legs face us and started to cross his ankles over Lenny's ankle, and again using this elbow to push the inside of that knee. Lenny now does the old school Hodger, where this is what Hodger Gracie and many others, this is just a classic position, but one that I first saw Hodger Gracie do many years ago, so that's the first person that I can think of, where now Greg is doing what we talked about, where he chopped the ankle, and now Lenny is going to use this, his instep to pry Greg's legs, and now he's going to flare his knees and go straight to the mount position. From here, Greg, actually, when I first saw it, I didn't realize what it was, but Lenny is looking for like a no-arm Ezekiel. So Greg should take his right arm and try to bring it all the way through and overhook Lenny's left arm. But what Lenny is doing is he's using his head to block that space from coming, so it's making it extra difficult for Greg to do so. Greg can also put both of his hands onto Lenny's hips, push him away, and buck up and try to bring his legs back into the game, his knees back into the game. So Lenny gets that no-arm Ezekiel. They reset. Lenny gets a 2-on-1 on his wrist. This is a nice position to pull guard from. It's a hard grip to break. And now Lenny kind of just gives his back just to go for a Kimura. And this is a classic move. Actually, Lenny, he's a black belt under Renzo, and this was the same position that Renzo and Sakuraba were in, except Greg in this instance was Renzo, and Lenny in this instance was Sakuraba. And Greg is going to take his back, but when Greg takes his back, what he wants is he does not want to lay on the side that he's getting Kimura'd. He wants to bring Lenny all the way to us, because when he's on our side, he can alleviate the pressure, and Lenny's body is not going to be laying on his arm. And what Lenny is going to do is he put all his weight onto Greg's arm so that it's really hard for Greg to move his right arm. And now this arm is really stuck. His elbow is through. And as soon as Lenny breaks Greg's hands apart, he's going to do a straight arm lock on that arm. So now Greg took that hand out and he's like trying to pry it in. And as he does that, Lenny is now going to just start to do a straight arm lock on the arm that's Kimura. The reason that it's really hard for Greg to defend or do anything is because Lenny has all his weight laying on that arm. Just like so. So here you can see the straight arm lock. Again, here Greg should try to like wiggle his elbow out if there's a little bit of space. He can try to bring his hands back together and try to roll Lenny to the other side. It's actually quite a hard position to defend from. And he gets the tap. Lenny's looking for an arm drag. And now Greg sets up a nice guillotine choke from the feet as Lenny shoots in. And Greg goes straight into the Marcelo style with his elbow over Lenny's shoulder. This is really nice. Actually, when I first saw it, I thought Greg was going to pull guard. But Greg is actually going to work to take Lenny over. And then Greg does a really nice job of staying on top and using that guillotine as a takedown and making sure that Lenny stays on his back. Now, Greg was looking for a north-south choke, but Lenny was looking towards him and that was making it hard for Greg to finish. Greg's looking for a knee on belly, looking to set up some arm locks, possibly on the other side. Lenny is now scooping that ankle, and as he does it, he turns away. And now Greg goes into a classic position. This is, in my opinion, one of the most underutilized positions. That's old school. This is, Hicks and Gracie from choke. This is, really, really classic, the gift wrap. And the gift wrap is especially hard to get out of, and you can use it for back takes, arm bars, setting up back triangles. You can do so much with it. Now, Greg, he does a good job with the back take, but he's gonna do it a few times, so we're gonna talk about it in a second. He has to roll Lenny all the way over. So this leg right here has to turn into the bottom hook. So Greg has to sit one, and then he has to roll all the way over to his left. And Lenny is preventing him from doing so. Watch. Greg tries to go for like a triangle, and now Greg has to lay on his left side. But what Lenny does is he bridges, and then he forces Greg to go onto his right side. You see? So now, since Greg is on his right side, his hook is too shallow, and he is unable to complete the back take or the triangle that he was looking for earlier. So Lenny does a really nice defensive job there. So Greg is using this hook to keep Lenny away from him. All right, this is really smart because Lenny wants to ultimately free this elbow and flatten his back and start to turn into Greg. Now Greg is going to start to go chase the back again. See, every time Greg tries to go to that side, Lenny forces Greg to go to the opposite side. So Greg is unable to complete the back take for that reason. Here, Greg can still do that same thing. So he finally completes the back take by falling to the left side, as we talked about it. Now Greg is looking to control the cross grips, potentially looking to trap Lenny's arm. And he keeps redoing the back take. Now Lenny is blocking, he's using his hand to block Greg's leg from coming over for arm bars. So he's using the arm that's free to try to escape. And now Greg uses his knee to block his defensive arm. So it's a really nice little back and forth going on over here. Greg looks to be looking for an arm triangle, but he's a little bit too high. Greg does a really nice job about keeping top position, not losing top position, and threatening triangles. Nice triangle attack by Greg right over here. So here, instead of having this arm under this leg, he should take this arm out and he could do a Muay Thai clinch and really bring Lenny's head down inward, bring both of his knees to his chest to try to start to readjust the triangle. And actually, he wants the underhook with this arm, not this one. So that would make it a little bit cleaner for the triangle. So he's hooking this leg, probably potentially, this is not a bad idea either, but just to make sure that Lenny's off balance. If he does a big uppercut, he can make Lenny sit down on his butt and then look for arm bars and adjusting the triangle when Lenny is in the seated position. But from here, it's a little bit hard to finish the triangle choke. And now Lenny's looking up. He's doing a good job. He's going to start to posture. He's using his hand on Greg's belly. As soon as he does that, Greg immediately switches to the omoplata. Starts to come up. Does a nice job with that. Lenny brings him into the closed guard. Greg should have had his knee in the middle. That would have made it harder for Lenny to close the guard up. And then the roll ends right there. All right. Guys, great work. Lenny and Greg, awesome roll. I'm looking forward to rolling with both of you guys. Haven't rolled with Lenny before, but I heard a lot of great things about him. And obviously Greg is a friend of mine, was helping me out in the gym a little bit before he moved away. So guys, check them out, Odyssey Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'll put all their information in below, right over here. All right, guys, thank you very much. If you have any breakdowns that you want me to do, let me know, and I got you. Hope everyone is staying safe. Take care, and all the best, everybody.